And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Hey folks, today we're taking a look at The Promised Land. This is from the Ragnar Brothers. Now the Ragnar Brothers are easily best known for a game called History of the World, which is a game that many people have enjoyed and has been out for, I think, 2 decades now. It's been out for quite a long time. Has come out in different versions where people are conquering the world, and it had some different things that actually affected other styles of games. I was interested in The Promised Land because it takes place in biblical times, and it shows the Hebrews and the Canaanites who are surrounding them, in this game, the heathen. And so this is a multiplayer game. You can have 2 players, 1-on-1, all the way up to 6, 3-on-3, kind of, sort of. Let me show you. In this game, you're going to split the players into Heathen and Hebrews players, and you'll do it as evenly as possible. And there's some changes if you have 5 or 2 players or 3, whatever. I'm talking mostly here about a 4-player game, but it's very maneuverable in that way. Essentially, what you'll do is you're going to get you have a pile of Book 1 cards. The game takes place in 3 eras per se. Those are called books. And in these, each player is going to draw some of the book cards and discard one of them. So they're going to have 3 of these cards. Now these cards matter. You'll notice this card is card 14, card 16, and card 12. If those are the 3 I picked, what's going to happen is there's a time track here on the outside of the board. And you'll notice here that this time track says Joshua 7, Moabites 8. So if you'll notice, the cards I picked are 14, 12, and 16. That means my 3 turns are going to be the 12th turn of the game, the 14th turn of the game, and the 16th turn of the game. And the first time I'll be using the Midianite armies, and the other 2 times I'll be using the Philistine armies. So players are going to be, so there's kind of a variable turn order. Each of these cards that you pick, whichever ones you choose, is going to be give you a certain number of units that you're going to use that turn, and shows you how many dice you use when you attack on the mountains or in the plains. And sometimes they're not as good as other cards, so they're called weaker cards, and you'll keep those cards because at the end of the game, they're worth more points. This one's 3 points at the end of the game, but that's because it only gives you 2 units, and your attack value is pretty low. When you get units, if you've ever played Small World, it's done in a very similar fashion, where you will take a certain number of units in hand, and then you'll start from where you are, and you'll move out, putting units down, and attacking regions that are next to you. When you do attack, you're going to be rolling dice, depending on how many dice you have. The defender will roll 1 die and add bonuses, like, for example, if there's a city in the region, they'll get a +1, and the attacker will take their highest die against the defender die to see who's eliminated. If there is no defending bonuses, which will happen quite often, then you don't even have to roll dice. The attacker just uses a certain number and does it. There's a little combat chart here to help you keep track of that. You can also spend units instead of attacking with them to build a city and or temple. These cities and temples are all start on the board, but you'll be destroying them as you move into them. Now, you have patriarchs. Each player has patriarchs, and there's different types of patriarchs, and each patriarch is going to do something different, but they don't actually get involved in fighting. But if they're in a region that's attacked, they have to move away, and if there's nowhere to move to, they're removed from the board. But players can also bring these patriarchs out. Patriarchs are important because each patriarch, depending on where they are on the board, is going to give you 3 different currencies. You have copper, silver, and gold currencies over here, and one is not more valuable than the other. They're essentially different currencies, and you're going to get those at the end of your turn based on this lovely little chart here. So this chart here says if you have a farmer in the hill, you'll get 2 bronze if you're playing with 3 players. This is the 3-player side. There's also a combat chart here. If he's in the plains, he'll get 1 bronze or 3 bronze. So farmers do better in the plains than they do in the hills. So your farmer patriarchs matter where you place them. Merchants, you want to try to have them on a road or in a port. And priests, you want to have in a city, a temple, or with the Ark of the Covenant, which is also here on the board. You can see, and that can be captured and stolen from other players. You also, at the end of your turn, have a chance to use some of your coins to buy different artifacts. You'll see the different artifacts here. These artifacts will give you special abilities. Perhaps this one here gives you a bonus when you're attacking in the plains. Each of these has a cost, and it's in the bottom corner, and it's of different currencies. You can also move your token on the royal track. To move to the next one, you're essentially going to have to pay. Like to go to Justice, I'll have to pay 3 of each coin. Then you got to go to Palace, I'll pay 2 of each coin. Then to Authority, 1 of each coin. Sometimes they give you a benefit, but at the end of the game, you're going to get points based on how far you've moved on that track. There's another track down here at the bottom called the Kingdom track, and you can move along this track, but you don't pay, you just have to do whatever it says. So I need to occupy 2 plains, and I can move. I can build or destroy a city and move, and so on and so forth. After the end of book 1, everyone pulls the cards again. You'll do book 2. Everyone pulls cards again. You do book 3. And at that point, you add up your points. You get points for leftover coins. You get points for patriarchs you have on the board. You get points for where you are on the royal track and on the kingdom track. And whoever has, and those weaker cards that you might have had. And whoever has the most points is the winner. It's a single winner, because you're actually not on teams, you're just like using the same units. There's a lot of interesting things to this game. I do enjoy the fact that you are on the same team as someone else, but you're not really on the same team. You're just using the same one. So like, ooh, good job there with the Philistines, but I would like to now use them in my turn and get more points. And you can't have your patriarch in the same place. You're trying to get your patriarchs in the right spot. So you're kind of working together, because you would prefer to see let's say you're on a heathen team, you prefer to see him put the Hebrews down. At the same time, you don't want them to do too well, because you're all competing against each other. The card mechanism is an interesting one, but it's also, I think, the biggest flaw of the game. I like the fact that you pick the cards, and then, it's your turn, and turn bounces around. That's interesting. And how the cards, some of them are not as good, but they're worth points at the end of the game, so you have to determine how to do that. The problem is, as you saw when I did that example there, I picked 12, 14, and 16, and, well, that means for the first 11 turns I don't do anything. And turns aren't that short. And that leads to the second problem of the game, is just that you have to look closely. All the artifacts, you're really never sure exactly what they mean. So you look up and look, what exactly does this artifact do? Why do I want this artifact? Some artifacts are worth points, so maybe you want, that's simple. Other artifacts do this. Do I want artifacts? Where can I go? And then the third problem is that the game feels a bit archaic. The combat system has been streamlined. Small World really does use the same kind of combat system or Vinci before it, and I'm pretty sure that they got the idea here from Kingdom of the World, that idea of taking units and going and moving. But the dice rolling and such, I don't know, I think I like dice rolling. I really like dice rolling, but here I think it might have been eliminated just to make the game faster. You don't use dice rolling sometimes in certain situations, and other times you do, and you have to figure out when am I using it, and what's going on, and what combat thing am I doing here. And I just felt it was a little clunky. And then finally, the game is too long. It's really long. When you finish one book, you're like, ooh, is that the game? No, that was just 1/3 of the game. Though that being said, I don't think it is a bad game. I did enjoy much of it. I thought there was a lot of things to do. You're trying to manipulate your patriarchs into the right spots. I like the fact that there's 3 different currencies and you're getting those and trying to do different things with them. I enjoyed moving around and fighting, and seeing a little bit of history. You really is back and forth the whole time. But so there's a lot of interesting things to it, and there's a good historical flavor to the game. It just needs to be streamlined. So I think there's some people who like this. If you like History of the World, I would imagine you'll like this. If you're looking for something with a deeper history of the earlier biblical times with the northern and southern Israel and Judah fighting up against their enemies around them, then you probably will like this. If you don't mind a game that's longer, you'll probably like this. Not really my style, but I can see it's a good game. I just wish it was more modern. Dice Tower Judgment, too long for me, but still approved.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool Stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.
Shut the door.